All right. Good afternoon, everyone. So I assume most of you guys are uh, in the class already. So we have 28. By right, I should have 30. So boleh lah. So I will start our lesson for today. Okay. So first of all, if you guys have any question before I begin, if you guys have any questions and you're a little bit scared to interrupt me, you can just hands lah. You know that there's an option for you to put your hands up. So feel free if you really have questions in the middle of my briefing, you just put your hands up and I will address the question as we go along. Okay, so today, because by right, today we have 3 hours lecture and then we have tutorial, I think, on Wednesday. But because Wednesday I have other urgent matter, so I cannot do the class on Wednesday. So by right for this week, today only lah the class yang I will do. So I will take probably 1 hour on the briefing and probably another hour on the lecture. So hopefully you can survive the 2 hours. Okay, by right dalam schedule kita 3 hours. So kalau normal time 3 hours, I also don't know whether you can survive or not 3 hours of class, but I will try my best. Okay. So to begin the class, I introduce myself first. I'm Kelly. Okay, so I'm Dr. Kelly. I'll be teaching you reaction engineering. So probably you have already heard from your friends, maybe your seniors, cakap reaction tu susah. Okay, reaction is difficult. So my answer, yes, it is actually difficult. Okay, tengok daripada credit pun, you know it's a 4 credit hours. So you can imagine that and the intensity of the course. So it is in fact a difficult course. Okay, so why difficult? I will explain later juga lah. But basically in a simpler word, even if you see the title pun dah tahu kan, it's reaction and it's engineering. So reaction engineering is actually a purely engineering course that touches on reaction. So maybe before this you have learned in chemistry kan, reaction. Okay, you have learned about tindak balas, you have learned many types of reaction. So that's the chemistry aspect, reaction. Reaction engineering is about the engineering aspect of the reaction. Okay, you have learned about the reaction. Now we are learning how to design the equipment that is used for reaction. So you imagine kalau dalam real process, okay, let's say in the laboratory, okay, let's say you're working in the real chemical plant, okay, you will have a R&D center, right, or R&D lab. Okay, so in the R&D lab, the chemist, okay, ahli kimia, will find or discover a new reaction. So let's say katakan you want to produce this product, okay? So the chemist will find the optimal way of the optimal reaction to produce your desired product. So that's the chemist role, okay? So what's the engineer role? The engineer role is now designing the system of which the chemical reaction will take place. And in reaction engineering, we're talking about only basically designing one equipment, which is reactor. So you might think, kenapalah satu subjek 4 credit hours to basically design one reactor? It is because reactor is the heart of any chemical plant. Meaning, kalau your chemical plant has reaction taking place ataupun any production of any chemical that needs reaction, you will have reactor, the equipment. Okay, so you will learn how to actually design reactors in reaction engineering. Okay, so kalau dulu reaction is chemistry, reaction engineering is chemistry and mathematics. So I would say 90% is calculation, which is the challenge sebab class online. The biggest challenge of learning reaction engineering online is because 90% of this course will be calculation. And let me tell you, it's quite difficult calculation. But no worries, okay, saya cerita dulu benda yang susah, nanti I will try to explain in terms of easy. It's 90% calculation, okay, mathematics and so on. Okay, so that will be the challenge. Okay, the good part of it is that it is actually my responsibility to make sure you understand. Part susah tu memang susah. So it's actually my responsibility to help you to understand this course in a simpler way. Okay, so the bonus is I've been teaching this course. You can ask your seniors daripada tahun. I've been teaching this course from year 2009. I joined Unicare 2009. I already teach this course. Then 1 year I teach 2009 to 2010. 2010 I went to Japan for my PhD. Okay, so I came back at 2013, and in fact during my PhD pun I did on reaction, or my PhD is on reaction engineering. Okay, so that's the bonus part. Memang my PhD is actually on reaction engineering specifically. That's why I teach this course. And then since I came back in 2013 until now, so that's what, 2013, 8 years, 9 years, I'm still teaching this course. So you are probably already semester yang dah ke 18, 19, semester ke 20 kot I teach this course. So by right, I should be able to explain this course in the most simplest way. Okay, so that's my aim in teaching you, that at the end of this 14 week, of course, to make you love the course is quite impossible. I hope that you love it. But even if you don't love it, at least yang important to me is you really understand the fundamentals of reactor. Okay, so that, because as I told you, kalau even later when you go to intra, when you're working, if you're working in a chemical plant, I can rest assure you, you will definitely see a reactor. Okay, so my aim, at least when you go to work, you understand somewhat the fundamentals of it and understanding how it operates, so on and so forth. Okay, so at the end of this, you're supposed to be able to design a reactor. Okay, so that's the aim of the course in a very simpler words. Okay, right. Okay, so let me brief you a little bit first on the course content. Okay, so my name is here, right? As usual, I have my contact number. So if you have any problem, anything, I'm always contactable by call will be a little bit hard lah, because this semester I have about 20 teaching hours per week. So if you call, probably it's very hard for you to get me if I'm having other classes as well. So you just text me lah, just text me on WhatsApp. And in fact, do tell your friends, kalau those yang belum register lagi, please attend the class. Actually, saya dah masukkan all the names. Okay, so if you're not registered yet, it's really fine. But please attend the class. Attendance tu tak apa, nanti kemudian saya akan update balik attendance. So please tell your friends, kalau tak register pun, just attend the class. I will not even check whether you dah register ke tak. But what's more important to me is attending the class. Okay, right. So next, I can be contacted also through email. So you have the email address here, as well as on the VLE. Okay, so all the materials for the course, including the video. Okay, later, after the class is over, I will also post the video. I will post through YouTube. Tapi YouTube tu saya akan embed dalam e-learning. So you just go to the VLE. You can already see the video, all my materials, notes, tutorial questions, lab, mini project, everything is already on VLE. Kalau kamu pergi VLE, kamu tengok lecture notes belum lah. Sebab lecture notes for today, yes, on VLE. The future one, not yet, because I will always update the lecture notes. But I will try to post it before the class. So my advice, make sure you have the copy before you during the class time, so that you can refer to the notes. Okay, as material for laboratory, everything is already on VLE. Mini project pun semua dah ada VLE. So if now you go to VLE, kamu nak tahu pasal lab, semua dah ada. Kamu nak tahu pasal mini project, semua pun dah ada. So you should know by now, I'm a very systematic person. I make sure that everything is available for you. Sebab kenapa? Sebab course ni susah. So I'm trying to help you to make it easier in that sense. Okay? Right. So next one is on, okay, so on VLE, if you're not too sure which VLE, make sure you go to the VLE with my name. Just sebab kadang-kadang ada VLE yang berlainan, I worry that you see the wrong VLE. Make sure you go to my VLE. Alright. As usual, I told you that I will embed the poster. Someone camera is switched on. Amirul, your camera is switched on, Amirul. Okay. Baik-baik berjaga-jaga jangan tengok, make sure jangan tersalah tekan kamera. Okay. Right. So as I told you, the video of the classes I will embed in YouTube and I will post it on YouTube. I will embed it in VLE. So kamu nak tengok video tu, kamu just pergi VLE, semua video tu akan ada right after the class. Okay. So this is on the VLE part. Make sure every material is on my VLE, including the video to the class. Okay. So for the schedule, just to confirm on the schedule, so today by right we have 3-hour class, okay. So this is the main challenge for us. Sebab for the first 7 week, kita ada 3 hours straight. 3 hours straight tu memang akan is very hard. So probably I will mix up lah lecture dengan tutorial tu saya akan mix sebab memang saya jaga all the lecture, all the tutorial. So I can mix the session around. So maybe we will do 1 hour or 1 hour and a half lecture, and then 1 hour and a half the remaining one will be tutorial. Okay, sebab kita pun I cannot shorten the time because we only have 14 weeks. Itu juga satu cabaran untuk mengajar reaction sebab now from 17 weeks it become 14 weeks. Also a challenge for me as well. Okay, sebab nanti kamu akan tengok dia macam banyak sangat penyeraan, such a lot of calculation, and of course if you ask your seniors, I do not teach just for the sake of teaching. I really teach to make sure you really understand. So that's the challenge. Kalau nak ajar setakat ajar memang boleh, but my goal, my aim, my hope is that I really make sure that you understand. So that's another added challenge. But if let's say kamu dah tak boleh terima, okay, as usual, you just put your hands up or you can just text me. If you really dah tak boleh terima, you just tell me. We can always arrange accordingly. Okay, so today 3 hours. Wednesday by right, we have 2 hours tutorial. Minggu ni tak ada, tak start lagi sebab tutorial only can be done after we have completed chapter 2. Since we haven't complete chapter 2 yet, we will not have tutorial. But maybe next week punya kelas tutorial tu mungkin saya akan buat lecture. Let's see, I will inform you accordingly. Okay, sebab dalam kamu punya kalender tu saya dah block dah masa-masa dia. Okay, so katakan kalau hari tu tak ada kelas, saya akan cancel untuk kelas hari tu. I will inform you jugalah dalam VLE ke dalam Teams lah. Okay, so just that by this week, untuk minggu ni sahaja, we only have class today. We will not have class on Wednesday. Okay, next one we will have a lab. So lab is by right on Thursday. Lab is also under me. So my understanding, but if I'm wrong, I'm sorry. I think right now you are still not yet back to campus. So I think we cannot do our lab next week. Sebab by right kamu kena balik campus, quarantine seminggu baru boleh start lab. So I think that you have not yet back to campus, then most probably we cannot start the lab next week. I foresee week 3 we will start the lab. Okay, so tak apa, part lab tu nanti kemudian I will arrange accordingly with you about the lab. Okay, I hope all of you could attend the lab physically if it's possible. If it's not possible, it's fine. But if it's possible, I will highly advise you to attend the lab. Kenapa? Because as you know, right? Lesson class ni is to teach you the theory, but a better understanding is when you really do the experiment by yourself, and you can really see the correlation between what you learned and what you do in the lab better if you come for the lab physically. Okay, so I'm not forcing. If you really cannot come physically, it's really fine. Okay, but of course you still have to do the assessment. But I will highly advise for your own benefits, especially nanti bila kamu nak pergi luar, when you go to your intern, you're joining the red industry. It's always best when you can tell your future employer, okay, I have already touched a reactor, I've already operate a reactor. Sebab fundamental dia sama je, walaupun reactor ni a lot of types. You know, I will teach you later kenapa ada 4 credit hours, sebab reactor ni bukan satu jenis, dia ada banyak jenis, and you have to learn to design this type of reactor. Okay, so at least you understand the fundamental understanding of the reactors. You can point out the key components in the reactors and why reactor design is very important when we want to produce something through reaction. Okay, so nanti kita akan discuss kemudian lah, okay, about the arrangement for the laboratory. Right, okay, so now let me begin first on your course introduction. I have introduced a little bit just now. Now let me talk a little more in detail. Okay, right. So, similarly as I mentioned, course learning plan, course syllabus pun saya dah upload dalam VLE. Okay, in a gist, reaction engineering ada 8 chapter. Okay, so that's the challenge. Kita ada 8 chapter nak cover dalam reaction. And let me tell you, chapter 7, 8 sahaja the reading chapter. Chapter 1, okay, chapter 1 not much of calculation. A little bit, chapter 1 ada sikit calculation. Chapter 1 to chapter 6 is essentially 90%, I would say 100% calculation. Chapter 7, 8 tu chapter membaca. Okay, so you already can imagine, right? Okay, second, this chapter, especially chapter 1 to chapter 6 are closely related to one another. Meaning, kalau let's say kamu miss ataupun kamu tak faham chapter 1, chapter 2 is going to be a nightmare. Kalau tak faham chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, double nightmare, and you can imagine until chapter 6. So my advice, datanglah kelas. Okay, for me personally, saya memang tak paksa attendance. And if you ask your seniors, they will tell you, I treat my student like adults. Meaning, saya takkan kejar, saya takkan marah kalau kamu tak datang kelas. It's your option. You're adult. I really treat you as adult. It's your option. Okay, because I understand sometimes maybe you also might have some issue or some problem or some difficulty, some personal problem, personal issue. I really understand. So, if you cannot come for the class for any reasons, okay je, saya takkan marah, but please just inform me. You can just inform me, doctor, sorry, I cannot come for today class. If you want to give reason, okay. You don't want to give reason pun tak apa, I'm okay. Just that you inform me supaya I can put in the attendance as you are on leave. Means you dah minta kat saya cuti. Alasan saya okay je. Whatever alasan kamu nak bagi, kamu bagi, I will accept so that I will put you on leave. However, kamu kena faham pula, kalau kamu tak dapat datang kelas tu, okay, make sure you have to catch up by yourself and you really need to catch up before I go to the next class. Maknanya kalau kamu termiss satu kelas, kamu tak dengar ataupun kamu tak belajar, you will definitely get lost at the next class. So benda tu akan bertimpa-timpa lah, macam kamu miss satu kelas, kamu akan lost in the next class and so on and so forth. And always I think that cause the demotivation in students. So saya faham sebab saya dah mengajar banyak semester, saya faham kadang-kadang bila student dah ketinggalan, dia akan jadi demotivated and that will cause the poor grades. Okay. So let me assure you, walaupun saya kata subjek ni susah, dia susah, but if you really understand, dia taklah susah kalau kamu betul-betul faham. Nak memahami tu memang susah, I admit. But once you understand, it's actually very easy. Okay, so that's why I tell you, you would probably be surprised, but your seniors yang betul-betul faham, they can score 90 to 100 for the final exam, you know. So it's impossible to say benda tu susah. Kalau ada seniors, every semester there are seniors who are scoring 90, 100 and mungkin kamu kata ala online boleh lah. Not only during online time, during physical exam, yang final exam masuk hall tu, yang exam tu pun student boleh score 90 dengan 100, you know. So it means actually this course is very possible, and in fact if you see the passing rate, failure rate and the high grade rate, my courses are even better than certain courses. Orang ingat reaction ni susah, tapi bila tengok grade, lebih baik actually daripada other courses. So by right, you have to put in your mind, it's actually very doable, tetapi tak boleh miss class or tak boleh tertinggal at any part. Okay, and then of course, if you have problem, okay, kalau kamu tak faham ke apa, you can always text me at any time. Okay, mungkin kena saya jawab lambat lah kalau saya ada kelas lain. Okay, but I think I can really say this sincerely. I will never say no to students who ask me questions. So kalau kamu tak faham, terus tanya saya. Tak faham, tanya saya. Macam previous semesters yang online class ni, there are students who really ask me almost daily. Ataupun dia buat tutorial, dia tak faham. Buat tutorial tak dapat jawapan. But just text me. You can probably ask the person. I will never say no. I will never marah. I will never not answer your question. So whenever you are lost, okay, or you feel that you need guidance, you can always inform me. I will definitely solve your problem. But make sure you talk to me lah on the problem, because I'm the only one going to teach you for the entire course. Okay, right. So next. done on syllabus, done on course learning plan. Let me tell you in a very simple analogy, apa tu reactor. Okay, so reactor in a very simple word, kalau kamu kena pergi interview ke ataupun orang tanya kamu reactor tu apa, in a simpler word, reactor is a vessel or equipment where reaction takes place. So kalau pemprosesan kamu tu melibatkan tindak balas, okay, involve reaction, the equipment will be a reactor. So as simple as application at home, okay, if you have an oven, in fact oven is a reactor. Why do we call oven a reactor? Because the reaction takes place, right? In order for you to bake a cake, right, you need a vessel or you need equipment. So the equipment is an oven. Okay, since reaction takes place for you to get a cake, so the oven is actually your reactor. So can you imagine now, as an engineer, okay, you have to design an equipment such as oven. As very simple example, such as oven. Okay, so when you have a reactor, okay, and you have a reaction, okay, mungkin kamu kena faham juga dulu kalau kamu lupa apa tu reaction. Okay, reaction in chemistry, in a simpler word, reaction is when you put in your raw material. Okay, raw material ni ataupun we call it reactant. Okay, kita panggil reactant, kita panggil raw material, is the same meaning. The compound that you place before the reaction takes place. Okay. So you put in your reactor after certain time. Okay, where you get a new compound from the reactor or from the reaction, it means a reaction has taken place. Maksudnya katakan kamu letak compound A dan B dalam reactor, after reaction takes place, kamu dapat compound baru, compound C. That means a reaction has taken place. Okay, reaction, kalau kamu letak compound A, compound B dalam reactor, after the reaction has taken place, you still get A and B, there's no new compound is formed, it means no reaction has taken place. To the simpler word, reaction mesti ada benda baru yang terbentuk yang kamu tak masukkan tapi dia terjadi dalam tindak balas. That means reaction has taken place. Okay, so what you get after the reaction, we call it as product. Okay, yang masuk reactant atau we call it raw material. The one after the reaction, we call it a product. Okay, now, so you think that, okay, dah faham tindak balas, dah faham reactor tu adalah vessel where reaction takes place. Your next question will be, kenapa kena ada 4 credit hours nak belajar pasal benda ni? It sounds simple, right? But it is not. Why? Because reaction is very diverse. Reaction ni sebenarnya, kamu tahu kan, kalau kita guna bahan mentah yang berlainan, kita akan dapat produk yang berlainan. Okay, sometimes katakan kamu tambah A dan B dapat C. Katakan A ni kamu ganti dengan bahan D. You change one reactant, the reaction will already be different. The reactor design will also be different. Okay, kenapa? Because reaction ada banyak jenis. Kamu faham kan reaction ada banyak jenis tindak balas. It can be oxidation, it can be combustion, it can be dehydrogenation, it can be hydrogenation, oxygenation, so on and so forth. Tukar bahan mentah, tindak balas berlainan, reactor design pun dah akan berlainan. One thing, okay, that's because of the raw material. Second, there are many parameters that affects reaction. Contohnya, like you bake a cake, right? Okay, you are baking a cake, you know, you have raw material like eggs, flour, so on and so forth. Okay, kamu tahu kan, kalau katakan kamu nak guna tepung jagung, kamu tambah tepung gandum, something like that. Your cake will be different also outcome. Kenapa the cake outcome is different? Because you already changed the raw material. One. Second, temperature. You know, in baking a cake, temperature is an important integral part, aspect of a reaction. Similarly to other types of reaction, usually temperature is very, very important. So you have to ensure temperature is also one of the parameters when you're designing the reactor. Second, third, time. Okay, so kamu tahu kan kalau kamu bake 40 minutes, 4 minutes, 100 minutes, the outcome of your cake will be different. So you know that time also plays a part. So nanti reactor design, you have to consider time as well. Time, temperature. Okay, don't forget. You have other parameter as well. Flow rate. Flow rate also ada banyak jenis. Volumetric flow rate, molar flow rate, so on and so forth. Okay, so that's aspect that you have to consider in reactor design. So nanti bila kita nak design reactor tu, kita kena, not only we have to consider, we have to consider it in our calculation. Pengiraan kita tu akan jadi sangat complex. Why reaction is very complex? Because the calculation will not be straightforward. Kalau ada faktor ni, pengiraan dia akan berubah. Second factor, another perubahan. Okay, don't forget another factor is the phase of your raw material. Is your raw material in solid or in liquid or in gas? Even the phases of the raw material also affects the design and calculation of your reactor. Okay, so next one pula, okay. Let me say in the example of an oven. Okay, oven kita tahu kita perlukan suhu yang tinggi, right? Why we need the temperature? We need the heat, right? The heat. Why do we need heat? The heat is needed for the reaction to take place. Okay, tapi kamu bayangkan kalau in the oven design, you have to ensure the heat distribution is evenly distributed. Katakan kalau haba, the heat is not evenly distributed, your cake will not bake evenly, kan? Mungkin atas dah bakar, atas dah masak, bawah tak masak lagi. Kenapa? Sebab if the heat are not distributed evenly, this will happen. So imagine in the design of the oven, dia dah consider lah bagaimana haba ini will be evenly distributed to ensure the cake are cooked evenly. Okay, even in the design of the height of the oven is also a consideration when they are designing this oven or designing the reactor. So kenapa faktor ni dia ambil kira? Sebab it is influenced by the reaction. So now you can understand the complexity of reactor design is purely because reaction itself are very diverse. So contohnya dalam plant kamu, let's say your plant produces let's say this product C. Okay, so all this while product C ni plant kamu hasil menggunakan let's say raw material A, raw material B. Okay, so dah ada design reactor, dah ada reactor dia. So let's say one day your chemist say, let's say you want to reduce the cost, operating cost, okay. Kamu tukar material, katakan kamu nak reduce cost kan. Kamu tukar material, katakan material sebelum ni mahal, someone suggested why not we use a cheaper material, okay. If the cheaper material is of a different compound, tindak balas dia dah berlainan and kamu kena faham reactor tu pun performance dia takkan sama. So maksudnya kalau selama ni kamu boleh dapat let's say produk dia 100 kg, you change raw material, you will not get back the 100 kg of product. Tindak balas dia dah entirely berlainan. So pengiraan, design reactor semua dah berlainan. So you must always consider that as an engineer, as a technologist, when we're talking about reaction, any changes of even parameter, raw material, design reactor dah berubah. So this is a very important factor that sometimes only engineer and technologists understand. A chemist probably will not understand. So chemist akan faham tidak balas berlainan. Tapi impact dia kepada reactor design, only technologists, only engineer can be able to tell you, and how do we navigate these changes. Okay. So the oven was a very simple example lah, example domestic. Let me give you a very quite common industrial process, which is the production of ammonia, NH3. So you know NH3 is usually used as a fertilizer. Okay, so the process of producing ammonia is through what we call as Haber-Bosch process. Okay, so why do you call it Haber-Bosch? Because the two chemists, actually they won Nobel Prize for this, is they discover a reaction. So the two chemists' name is actually Sir Haber and Sir Bosch. So these two chemists find out that to produce ammonia, NH3, you can actually react nitrogen gas dengan hydrogen gas. Okay. So kenapa this method is very popular in producing ammonia is because the air has abundant source of nitrogen. Kan? We have an abundant source of about 79% of nitrogen in the atmosphere. So kalau nitrogen ni we can use to produce ammonia. The ammonia can be produced at a very much cheaper cost. And sebab dia digunakan sebagai fertilizer for food production. So if fertilizer can be dropped drastically, the cost of food will also drop drastically. That's why they won a Nobel Prize for this, because they found a much cheaper way to produce ammonia. Okay, tapi challenge dia, in a room temperature, N2 will not react with H2. Ammonia dihasilkan daripada nitrogen gas, hydrogen gas. In a normal room temperature, kamu pergi tambah nitrogen gas dengan hydrogen gas, you will never get ammonia. But they found out that if I mix nitrogen gas, hydrogen gas, I increase temperature, I increase pressure. I think the temperature, I can't remember. I think about I used to remember this, about 1,000, I think. I might be wrong, about 500 to 1,000. They increase the temperature to 500 to about 500 Celsius to 1,000 Celsius, if I remember correctly, and sufficiently high pressure, kena very high pressure, this reaction will produce ammonia. Okay, so that's why they want a Nobel Prize. Kalau tambah time biasa tak dapat, tapi dia naikkan suhu, dia naikkan tekanan, turns out these two can react to form ammonia. Okay, so this production, okay, this Haber-Bosch reaction will take place in a reactor. So kalau kamu pergi any chemical plant, katakan kamu nak pergi intra ke, interview ke, kalau kamu nak impress kamu punya employer, you just ask, oh, what kind of reactor that you use or what kind of process that you use. So that's the gist of why you have to learn reaction, is because if your plant produces chemical through reaction, which I'll tell you probably 99% of all the chemical processes uses reaction, you will see a reactor. So the reactor is an integral part of the plant, and if you ask me, most of the investment or money used in the production is always on optimizing your reactor performance. The higher the optimize your reactor, the better it is for the company. So bila company nak invest atau dia nak invest dalam processing, most of the time dia akan invest dalam reactor, sebab reactor yang high efficient will give you the best or more product. Sebab dalam plant, the aim, money is through more product, means sebanyak mana raw material yang saya guna, saya nak semua raw material ni converted to produce as much product as possible. So how do I achieve this? By optimizing my reactor performance, by optimizing the reactor design, which is what you will learn for the next 14 weeks of reaction engineering. Okay, right. So in order to design reactor, dia bukan senang, dia bukan straightforward, because you have to understand certain concept. Okay, so as I said, engineering is basically quantifying chemistry. Okay, sebab tu dia susah, sebab engineering ni bukanlah susah. In a way, I love it, because chemistry is a little bit, pendapat saya, is a bit abstract. Engineering is to quantify chemistry. So kalau katakan contohnya dalam erti yang kata senang, let's say, I always give this example in many of my talks. Let's say you're holding a cup of hot water, okay? So chemistry tells you it is hot, okay? Because you add on heat to the water, it becomes hot. That's chemistry. But engineering will tell me it is hot because, let's say, it's 100 Celsius. So that's why I know it's hot, sebab dia 100. Kalau dia 40, kalau dia 30, dah tak panas lah. So from numbers tu, saya boleh quantify the chemistry aspect already. I can say it is hot because it is 100 Celsius. I can say it is not hot because it's 30 Celsius. Okay, so that's the engineering part yang interestingly enough to define chemistry. Okay, right. So in order for you to design reactor, kita kena quantify tindak balas. Okay, itu yang menjadi sedikit kesusahan, because reaction, kalau chemistry dikata telah bertindak balas. Dalam engineering akan tanya, how do we know it has reacted? Okay, so this is what we will learn through kinetics. So bila kita nak design reactor tu, dalam chapter reaction ni, chapter 1 sampai chapter 3 ni, kita kena quantify dulu, chapter 4 baru kita design. Kita kena faham bagaimana kita nak quantify the reaction itself. Okay, as example, how to quantify, kita akan kaji how much the loss of the concentration of the reactant with time. So kalau dia loss banyak, okay, then I know the reaction is taking place vigorously. Good reaction. Kalau banyak raw material bertindak balas, I can say this is a very good reaction. So kita tengok kehilangan kepekatannya dengan masa. So this is what we call as kinetics. So you have to learn first kinetics, baru kita boleh design reactor. Okay, but don't worry, if you find the words are very difficult, it's fine. Later when I teach you, I will really explain. Kalau kamu perasan style saya explain dulu dalam layman term. I will try to explain it in the simplest way supaya kamu faham dulu. Once dah faham, then the terms will be very easy for you to catch up as I teach it further on. Okay, right. So this is all the chapters. So you can see we have 8 chapters as I told you. Chapter 1 to chapter 6 is calculation. Chapter 7 and 8 is reading. So my advice to you guys, kamu ambil sekali je lah. Jangan repeat lah. Always tell my seniors, don't repeat. You have to somewhat suffer for one semester. Tapi nasihat saya, jangan repeat. Janganlah ambil lagi. Ambil sekali, seksa lah sekali, settle lah subjek ni. And trust me, sometimes banyak all your seniors tell me, ingatkan subjek ni akan jadi killer subjek. Lala subjek ni yang membantu CGPE sebab dia 4 credits and most of the time they do not think they will get good grade, but let me tell you, most of the time they do get better grades than what they expect. So put that in your mind. Kalau kamu rasa ni aku dapat D pun boleh lah, trust me, you get much better than D. But of course you have to work for it lah. Of course you cannot not work for it and hope the D turns to A. It will not happen lah, right? Okay. So next one, let me talk about the assessment. Okay, so assessment for reaction ni senang, paling senang sebab ada 3 komponen je, 4 komponen lah termasuk final exam. Okay, so final exam 60%. We have test, so we have 2 tests, so 10%, 10%. Okay, I'm still thinking whether to do the test online or physical. We will discuss later. I would very much prefer physical test. Okay, tapi kita tengok macam mana. I tak boleh promise jugalah nak buat online, nak buat physical. I cannot promise, but I would prefer physical. Kenapa? Kalau physical, soalan tu sebenarnya lebih senang compare dengan online. Sebab online, kamu faham kan, kalau online, there is risk of copying. So, soalan tu jadi lebih susah untuk memastikan tak ada senario meniru. Tapi kalau physical, this scenario can be eliminated since it's face to face, then the questions will be technically easier. Tapi saya tengok dulu macam mana. I will ask, this is a democracy country, this is a democracy class. Later I will ask you if all of you feel not comfortable. I can understand during the pandemic. Kita akan discuss kemudian how is this done. Even if I do physical and some of you want to do online pun boleh. I will give you the option. As I said, tanya je senior kamu, saya sangat fleksibel. Tetapi benda yang saya suruh buat, kena buat lah. Okay, we will discuss later. Next one, we have one mini project, 20%. Mini project saya guideline dah ada dalam VLE. So my mini project starts very early. Okay, I will explain later kenapa. Alright, then we have our laboratory, which is another 20%. Okay, so since this is a 14-week semester and this is a 4 credit hours, saya dah try to really reduce your burden in the assessment. Okay, even in fact, I try to simplify certain things. Saya tengok balik pada senior kamu, part mana yang saya rasa macam membebankan senior kamu, saya dah senangkan dalam this new assessment. Okay, right? Okay, so let me talk first about a mini project. Okay, so mini project saya, right, it's 4 members in the group, 4 and only 4. Okay, kamu cek dulu 4. Nanti kalau ada lebihan tu, kalau ada member yang, sebab saya rasa kita ada dalam 30, so definitely will be 2 extra members. Kamu hantar saya dulu 4. Nanti kemudian yang lebih tu, kalau dia jadi lebih, I will ask the extra members which group for them they want to join. Okay, so the members are up to you. You select yourself, freedom, you can select anyone. Tak semestinya daripada section yang sama, section berlainan pun boleh. Let's say proses nak combine dengan bio ke, nak combine dengan polymer ke, you are free to do so. This is a free country, you are free to do so. Just that, kena ada 4 orang. Okay, tu je benda dia. And when you are in the group, okay, benda ni lain sikit daripada course lain. Dalam mini project ni, although it's a one project per group, but everybody got its own part. Okay, means kamu settle part kamu sahaja dalam projek itu, dan sepatutnya kalau setiap orang boleh settle part dia, akan membentuk satu projek yang boleh dihantar. Okay, why do I do that? It's because to ensure everybody pull its weight. So means katakan in the group, okay, you assign yourself, you are student 1, you are student 2, you are student 3 or student 4. Setiap student ni dah ada part di sini dalam mini project. So as long as you settle your part, member you tak buat pun tak apa. But you must settle your part. You will not bear any consequences. Katakan group member kamu tak buat part dia, tak apa. Kamu buat part kamu, you will not be penalized on it. Okay, so that's the spirit. I want to make sure everybody pull its weight in the group. Okay, alright. So if it's possible, please submit the names by tomorrow to my email. Okay, lagi sebab my mini project already start today. The moment that I announce to you, dah start dah mini project sebenarnya. So please give the name by tomorrow, your group name. Okay. Nombor 1, 2, 3, 4 tu kamu decide sendiri. Tak payah beritahu saya lagi besok. Just give me the member list. You decide yourself. You want to be student 1, you want to be student 2, you want to be student 3 or student 4. And each group tu, I will assign you. Basically, you have to, your mini project ni senang je. Design satu reactor. Okay. Okay, so each group tu saya akan beritahu kamu jenis reactor. Okay, you have different types of reactor. I will tell you the reactor type. I will tell you the production rate and also the chemical that you will have to design for. Means katakan production of ammonia. So kamu kena design reactor lah sampai dapat ammonia tu. Okay, so kamu kena decide raw material dia, so on and so forth. Okay, so calculation, I already give you the production rate. So reaction ni akan menggunakan knowledge of CPP, particularly mass balance, okay, and energy balance, some part of energy balance as well. So, kamu kena ingatlah, kamu tak boleh lari lah. Reaction dengan CPP tu actually are twins. That's why they are 4 credits. I also teach CPP before, so I really understand correlation between CPP to reaction. Okay, so don't worry about this. And as well as probably if you don't know, my background memang chemical engineering. Memang my degree, my masters is in chemical engineering. Although my PhD, walaupun saya beritahu kamu saya buat design reactor kan, tapi my PhD design of reactor in mechanical. So that's why my PhD actually is mechanical engineering, because I did the study on really the mechanical design of a reactor. So that was my PhD. But as I told you, nak mechanical design kena faham juga all the chemical part. That's why I did. That's why my knowledge of chemical really helps me for my PhD as I was doing on mechanical design of reactor. Okay, right. So, kenapa I ask you to straight away have a group for your subject, for your mini project is because mini project saya ni unik sikit. I have 2 stage of submission sebab saya tak nak nanti kalau kita tunggu semua nak submit end of semester, kamu ada banyak benda. Saya tak nak nanti end of semester kamu nak kena kejar test, kamu nak kena kejar mini project lab, kelas lain, kamu nak kena kejar lab of other subject. So for my course, memang mini project tu saya suruh start awal supaya saya tak nak bebankan kamu kemudian. Okay, so mini project will have 2 stages of submission. So kamu dah finish stage 1, siap, kamu dah dapat markah untuk stage 1. Lepas tu kamu buat stage 2, kamu dapat markah untuk stage 2. Means kamu dah habis stage 1 tu, kamu dah tak payah tengok, dah settle dah stage 1. So by the right, when you finish stage 1, kamu dah siap 40% of your mini project. And then stage 2, kamu akan siap the remainder 60%. So by right, follow the timeline. Stage 1, minggu 5, week 5, you have to already submit your stage 1 punya mini project, and stage 2 will be submitted on week 11. Okay, so if you ask your friend, your seniors, Dr. Kelly ni flexible, except one thing saja dia inflexible, deadline. Okay, deadline to me is very, very important in the sense that kalau saya cakap, if the deadline has been set at that date, that time, you have to follow the deadline. However, we are human. I understand, let's say you have difficulty, you have problems, okay? You are not able to submit on time. Of course, you are allowed, but with my permission prior to submission. Means kalau katakan submission hari Jumaat, kamu kena minta kebenaran saya sebelum deadline kalau kamu tak boleh hantar on time. Okay? That's all my rules in my class. Ikut deadline. Kalau tak dapat ikut deadline, inform saya sebelum deadline. Okay, bukan deadline kamu tak hantar, kamu assume saya bagi extension. No, saya tak akan bagi extension unless you inform me beforehand. That's all my request from my student. You can ask my seniors. Tu je saya minta. Okay, kalau kamu betul-betul tak boleh hantar, kamu ada masalah, saya terima. Just like kamu kena beritahu saya, I will allow you the extension. But you have to ask my permission for the extension. So why this is done? This is what we talk about treating you guys like adults. Nanti bila kamu pergi kerja pun sama. Your boss will give you certain deadline and you are unable to follow. So you have to inform your boss. Sama je konsep dia. So I'm applying the same concept. Okay. You may be allowed, but you have to ask for the permission first. Okay. So the first part of the project, nanti saya akan tunjuk kamu assessment dia. Okay. The first part of the project, kamu tengok setiap student dah ada part dia sendiri. Okay. So make sure you do your part. You compile it. Everybody part in one report, you submit to me, and as I told you, assessment is done on individual basis. One report, tapi setiap orang akan evaluated based on part dia sendiri. So if your friends don't do the part, you don't have to worry, you will not be penalized about it. But deadline dia, stage 1 minggu 5, stage 2 minggu 11. Okay. So if you go to your VLE now, you can see the assessment is already on the mini project guideline is already on VLE. You can see clearly untuk stage 1, yang stage 1 ni minggu 5, you can see clearly part student 1, part student 2, part student 3, part student 4. And please, I know you might refer to your seniors. Saya tak kata salah. You are allowed to refer to your seniors punya mini project, but make sure kamu check guideline sebab saya dah tukar certain part of the guideline. Basically, saya dah senangkan dah mini project untuk semester ni. Tapi jangan cakap dengan senior kamu, nanti kamu kesian dia, kan dia marah pula. Sebab 14 weeks, 17 to 14, I understand the burden is not fair for me to expect the amount of work for 14 versus 17. So, you may refer to your senior, tapi kamu kena tengok certain part dalam report senior tu saya dah remove daripada dalam guideline yang baru ini. So, make sure you check properly. Reference are allowed, copying is not allowed. Jangan copy daripada senior. Kenapa? Sebab Lita buat explain jugalah. All your report, I will turn it in it. Kamu tak payah turn it in it. Saya buat sendiri. Okay, saya akan turn it in dia. Okay, so kalau kamu copy, of course lah, saya dapat tangkap masa turn it in. So kalau saya dapat tangkap masa turn it in, first time I will return back. I will ask you to do back. Kalau second time kena lagi, memang kena potong markah lah. Okay, so make sure you are allowed to refer to your senior. Kalau saya kata jangan refer, it's a little bit hypocritical. You are allowed to refer. You are not allowed to copy. Okay, sebagai panduan boleh, sebagai teks jawapan tak boleh. Okay, right? Okay, next. So this stage 1 basically dah start daripada minggu 1 sampai minggu 5. I will inform you the date of submission. Okay, I will put it on VLE, the date of submission lah. Right. So stage 2 pun sama. Because stage 2 you can see each student tu ada part dia sendiri. Very clear. So let's say you are student 1 stage 1, student 1 stage 2, student 2 stage 1, student 2 stage 2. You still maintain the number, you follow accordingly when you are doing your mini project assessment. Okay, alright. So as I told you, I'm a very green person. My field of research pun green. So all submission is no longer physical. It's only online. You will submit soft copy through VLE. I will open a folder. Nanti bila submission, I will open a folder. You will submit your file, PDF format into the VLE folder. And as I told you, your report will be checked for Turnitin. Okay, I will check the Turnitin. Kalau kamu nak buat sendiri pun boleh juga. Tapi kalau kamu tak buat pun tak apa. I will Turnitin it. If I found very high similarity, I will return back to you. Sekali je, kali kedua dah tak ada chance. Okay. Then I will give you extension pun mungkin sehari je untuk kamu betulkan. Saya akan bagi extension seminggu. The most I give you 24 hours to correct your similarity. Okay, so don't assume tak apa aku tiru dulu nanti Dr. Kelly pulangkan aku buat yang betul. No, I will give you probably 1 day or less than 1 day for you to correct it and return back to me. Okay, right. So next, test. So test are 2 tests. Okay, so as I told you, test 1 is about chapter 1 to chapter 3. Test 2, chapter 4 to chapter 6. So kita ada 8 chapter kan. So chapter 7, 8 final exam je. Chapter 1 to 6 you will be tested in the test lah. Right? Okay. Next one, lab. Okay, so lab pun kamu kena betul-betul faham juga. Okay, first of all, lab kita ada actually 3 part of assessment untuk lab. Okay, kenapa? Sebab saya rasa sangat tak fair kalau semua markah lab ni kat lab report. Okay, sebab lab report ni actually basically penulisan. So I think it's not fair that kalau 20% lab tu hanya pada lab report. So saya dah pecahkan. Basically yang 20% lab report, 20% for your lab. 10% sahaja sebenarnya lab report, lagi 10% tu adalah evaluation of your psychomotor assessment. Kamu datang lab, kamu buat lab baik-baik, nanti saya akan beritahu kamu apa itu assessment dia. Basically, saya assess kamu masa kamu buat lab. Okay, so that is to be more fair for you sebab kamu dah pernah datang lab. Dah lah, lab reaction ni panjang tau. Satu lab tu 3 jam memang kamu takkan dapat balik awal. Reaction lab can never finish in 1-2 hours. You can ask your seniors. Kalau boleh balik 3 jam pun kira bonus dah. So, to reward you for coming to the lab and staying 3 hours for the lab session, that's why I introduce psychomotor assessment, means penilaian semasa kamu buat lab. Okay. And then tambah sikit lagi, I will have pre-lab assessment. Pre-lab ni sebenarnya kenapa? Sebab saya nak kamu bersedia sebelum masuk lab. So nanti saya akan tunjuk kamu, pre-lab ni basically kamu kena kira dulu chemicals, kamu kena tahu dulu a little bit of methodology, kamu kena tahu apa problem dia sedikit sebanyak, because I want you to be prepared before you masuk lab. So bila kamu dah buat pre-lab tu pun kamu dah dapat markah. So combination of psychomotor, practical skill lah. Psychomotor tu practical skill. Practical skill campur pre-lab, kamu dah dapat 10%. Can you imagine of your overall grade tu, kamu datang lab, kamu dah dapat 10 markah dah sebenarnya just by coming to the lab. Okay, right. So sama macam mini project, saya punya konsep yang sama. Saya tak nak sleeping group members. Same as lab report. Although you are producing one lab report of 4 members, tetapi lab report tu pun kamu hanya akan buat part kamu sendiri sahaja. Satu lab report tapi setiap orang ada part dia sendiri. Okay, so tapi berbeza dengan mini project. Kalau mini project, katakan kamu student 1, kamu kekal student 1 kan? Okay, kalau lab report ni kamu kena rotate. Okay, so katakan minggu ni you are student 1. Okay, lab 1. Kita ada 4 lab je sebenarnya. 4 lab, 4 orang kan? Okay, so let's say lab 1, you are student 1. Okay, so lab 2, kamu akan jadi student 2. Lab 3, student 3. Lab 4, student 4. So nombor lain pun rotate jugalah. Kalau kamu dah jadi student 2 this week, next week kamu jadi student 1, the other week jadi student 3, jadi student 4. Basically, untuk setiap lab tu, kamu akan menjadi sama ada student 1, student 2, student 3 atau student 4. Remember to rotate the numbers and clearly put it in your lab report punya form. Sebab kamu akan di-assess individually even for your lab report. Lab report, pre-lab, practical skills, semua individual assessment. So as I said, saya nak pendapat saya, you have to earn the marks. Seperti macam tak adil katakan kalau member kamu yang tidur, kawan kamu yang lain kena bekerja keras. I think it's really not fair. Okay, you earn your marks, you earn your grades. Okay, right. So lab, for lab also kamu kena bagi nama kepada saya. Kalau boleh, samakanlah mini project dengan lab members dia. Tapi katakanlah kamu ni mini project nak dengan member lain, lab report dengan member lain, it's up to you. But email to me clearly, is this grouping for lab or mini project or for both? Okay, saya tak wajibkan kena sama, saya tak wajibkan kena berbeza. It's really up to you. But I would highly advise, okay, this is not because I'm a female, I would prefer for the lab at least ada seorang lelaki sebab aktiviti memanjat akan diperlukan. You will need to climb certain things because our reactors are really high. Certain amount of climbing is required. So tapi tak apa, if the female think that you can climb, so much better. But if let's say you little bit hesitate, you will prefer a male to do it, and then include lah one male in your group. Okay, tapi tak ada paksaan. Kalau semua nak female pun saya okay je. Okay, just to remind lah akan ada certain amount of climbing stairs to operate the reactors. Okay, right. Okay. So why do I say why the numbers are rotated is because okay, lab report ni akan the lab report aspect you will be divided into certain part. Okay, contohnya let's say this week you are student 1, katakan lab 1 tu kamu student 1. So student 1 akan buat summary dengan result sahaja. Kalau kamu student 2, kamu buat discussion. If you are student 3, you do conclusion, recommendation. If you are student 4, you will answer the tutorial question. Dalam report saya pun ada tutorial question. You will answer the tutorial question. So, sama. Kalau next week tu kamu tukarlah. Kalau katakan minggu ni kamu dah buat summary result kan. Student 1 kan. So, minggu tu lagi tu kamu dah jadi student 2. So, student 2 untuk lab report seterusnya, kamu akan buat pula discussion. Okay, so that's why dalam lab report kamu kena rotate. Supaya setiap lab tu kamu akan buat satu aspek dalam lab report. Okay, so this also will be evaluated individually. One lab report tapi setiap orang ada part dia sendiri. Okay, so kalau kawan kamu tak buat, tak apa, you will not be penalized if your friend do not do their part as long as you do your part. Okay, okay, so that's lab report. Okay. Pre-lab. Okay, pre-lab pun sama. Okay, katakan minggu tu kamu adalah student 1. So pre-lab assessment kamu buat part student 1 untuk pre-lab. Okay, so kalau kamu student 2 for the week, lab report kamu student 2, pre-lab pun kamu student 2. Okay, apa tu pre-lab? Okay, pre-lab as I told you, right? these are the preparation that you need to do before you masuk lab. So kalau kamu kira saya tak buat kamu makan, saya rasa macam tak fair sebab kamu dah buat certain amount of preparation. So I reward you for the preparation of the lab. Okay, so what do you need to do? If you're student 1, you're supposed to already calculate the chemicals. Okay, kamu kena calculate amount tu sebelum kamu masuk lab. This is very important sebab kalau kamu nak pagi tu baru kamu nak calculate, memanglah lab kamu jadi 4-5 jam. Lab reaction ni lama. Sebab reactor kan, reactor and our reactor are really big. Kita nak tunggu dia steady state, kita nak tunggu nak dapat result, it takes very long time. And the preparation of chemical, mungkin lab lain prepare 1 liter, 2 liter. Lab reactor kena prepare 30 liter, 50 liter. Kamu kan nak prepare chemical tu dah ambil sejam, sejam setengah. So kalau kamu datang lab tak kira lagi, itulah ambil masa lagi. Sejam, 2 jam, lab kamu jadi 4-5 jam. Okay, so cannot. So please do the calculation first. Pre-lab ni kamu kena bagi saya sebelum lab bermula. Means you don't do pre-lab, you go to my lab, I will ask you to go back. You dah tak ada markah untuk lab tu. Okay, pre-lab is a compulsory thing to be done for you to enter the lab to start the experiment. So kalau tak buat pre-lab, most of the time saya akan suruh budak student tu balik, tak adalah markah untuk lab tu. Okay, so make sure you prepare your pre-lab before you start your lab. As usual, kalau tak tahu macam nak buat, tanyalah saya. Saya tak marah pun, tapi kena tanyalah saya kalau kamu tak tahu macam nak buat. Okay, for student 2, by right student 1 calculation kan. Okay, maknanya masa dalam lab tu, student 1 ni dia kena make sure calculation betul and student 1 yang akan prepare chemical. Basically, this pre-lab is to assign you your role in the lab. So student 1, you do calculation, you will prepare the chemical. Okay, student 2, you will study the procedure and you will summarize the procedure. Means masa lab berlangsung, student tu yang akan run the experiment sebab dia dah baca procedure. Okay, student 3, kamu akan become an observer or troubleshooter. Meaning sebarang masalah masa dalam masa eksperimen tu, student 3 are supposed to write down the problems and how you solve the problem during the lab. So masa lab reaction memang saya akan beri kamu guna, sentuh and run the entire thing, but I will be there. So I will observe you. Okay, student 3 peranan dia ada sebarang masalah, dia kena catat, write down and dia kena troubleshoot masalah tu. So that's actually the skills that is very important. Kamu kena faham lab ni bukan nak dapat result balik. I really want you to experience like a real working environment in a chemical processing plant. You are supposed to know apa masalah berlaku, what can we do to troubleshoot the problem. That's what more important in the lab. Okay. Itu student 4. Okay, student 4. Student 3, kamu sepatutnya dah tahu macam mana nak fill up the result. Sebab result eksperimen ni ada table kan, we got a lot of table. So by right student 3 dia dah tahu macam mana nak isi table result tu sebelum dia masuk lab. So masa lab tu, student 3 akan catat result. Okay, so that's the role. Student 1, calculate the chemicals, prepare chemicals. Student 2, run the experiment. Student 3, fill up the experimental result. Student 4, troubleshoot the problem. So that's why you kena rotate supaya every week you have done one role, one responsibility and we rotate the responsibility. Okay, tak apa. Kalau kamu macam banyak sangat information, nanti saya akan inform lagi as the time goes by. Okay, and also to help you to prepare lab report, please check in my VLE. I give you one file of which I help you to understand the result and discussion part of each experiment. Saya dah bagi tapi mungkin sekarang kamu akan rasa macam tak faham lagi. Tapi tak apa, nanti masa lab pun saya akan terangkan juga. So don't worry, I will explain also during the lab, how to do the lab report, so on and so forth. Okay, this one, the last one, the practical skill assessment, we call it psychomotor assessment. So kamu datang lab, saya assess kamu lah, make sure you wear PPE, you run the experiment safely, you clear up the experimental apparatus after the experiment and you conduct the work safely. As long as you do all this, memang saya dah bagi markah penuh. So bayangkan kamu buat pre-lab, kamu buat psychomotor assessment, kamu dah dapat 10 markah of your entire overall grade. Okay, so that's I think is a reward for you to come to the lab. Okay, preparation of chemical, nak buat lab, preparation of chemical saya dah beri dalam VLE juga. Cara pengiraan pun saya dah bagi. Make sure kamu refer ni bila kamu nak calculate for the chemical preparation. Okay. So to talk about experiments, I told you we have 4 experiment. Kenapa? Because we will study different types of reactor. And let me tell you, this is a very honest, bukan saya nak macam nak menghiburkan lah, macam nak exaggerate. But MySet has one of the best reactor facilities in Malaysia, in even better than IPTA, I can tell you, because our reactors are already to pilot scale. Kalau kamu pergi IPTA, I was from USM, so I can tell you honestly, IPTA reactor dia besar-besar pun 2 liter, 5 liter. Our reactor is as big as 10 to 20 liter. You know, our reactors are really pilot scale in comparison to other universities. Sebab tu, I keep telling you, pergi masuklah lab. Kalau kamu tak masuk lab, macam rugi. We have one of the best educational facilities, but you don't get the chance to actually really use it. That's why I keep encouraging you, come to the lab. You can not only see it, let me teach you how it is used, and then you can run it by yourself. Okay, so the first experiment is batch reactor. Nanti saya akan terang pula pasal jenis-jenis reactor. Okay, but the first type is what we call as batch reactor, experiment 1. Experiment 1 pun terbahagi 1A dengan 1B. Okay, you will do either one. Salah satu saja, kamu takkan buat dua-dua. So either you buat experiment 1A or you do experiment 1B, I will tell you, I will assign you experiment mana. Okay, so this is an example, this is in our lab, this is an example of our batch reactor. Later I will teach you even more deeper on understanding how the reactor works like. Okay. Okay, kalau nak tahu yang reactor mana satu, the vessel ni yang kamu saya tengah highlight ni, this is your batch reactor. Next one, experiment 2 is CSTR, or in a full term, continuous stir tank reactor. Okay, so to experiment 2 pun, CSTR ni pun ada 2A, 2B. You will do either one, either 2A or 2B. I will tell you which reactor or which experiment that you will run. Make sure you check the manual properly. Eksperimen 2A berlainan dengan eksperimen 2B. Jangan tengok manual yang salah. Okay, so imagine reactor dia yang ni, yang saya tengah highlight ni reactor dia. Yang sebelah kiri 2 tank ni adalah kita punya feed tank. So bayangkan feed tank ni, sebab tu saya kata it's better to have a male member, sebab tu kamu kena panjat nak isi chemical. Dan pengisian chemical ni lah yang akan ambil masa, sebab this one is about 30 liter. Kamu nak isi chemical 30 liter, it takes really long time. That's why I advise you prepare earlier. Okay. Experiment 3, we call it PFR, or in simpler terms, plug flow reactor. So experiment 3 ni pun kamu tengok reactor dia yang, kalau you see the coil one, this is the reactor, the down one is the feed tank. Okay, the down one is a feed tank. PFR 50 liter tau. Means 50 liter of sodium hydroxide, 50 liter of ethyl acetate. In combination 100 liter yang kamu kena prepare. Sebab tu kena datang awal supaya make sure you can prepare early. And last one is our reactor test ring. So reactor test ring is actually the one that's very unique, and I can almost assure you probably less than 10 universities, sebab saya pergi IPTA and I did audit in other university as well. I've done audit in UTHM, I've done audit in UITM. Diorang memang tak ada facilities ni. Reactor ni tak semestinya, mungkin dalam erti kata senang, always people thought that we only can use one reactor ataupun satu equipment je. Okay, tapi tak, sebenarnya reactor you can use in combination of more than one reactor at same time. We call it reactor in series. Apa maksud dia? Okay, katakan kamu guna satu reactor kan. Okay, katakan you have, let's say 100 moles of reactant A. Okay, 100 moles reactant A, kamu masuk dalam reactor. Let's say lepas reaction takes place, ada lagi baki 50 mole. Means hanya 50 mole reactant A bertukar jadi produk, ada baki 50 mole reactant A lagi. Okay, kamu tahu kan in industry, unconverted reactor ni adalah duit, raw material yang tak bertukar ataupun yang tak menjadi produk is a loss. Okay, so what do you do with this unconverted raw material? Okay, dia ada dua cara. Cara pertama, okay, lepas kepada reactor, kamu separate produk, separate yang reactant tu kamu recycle balik. Itu satu cara. Tapi dia punya keburukan proses ni, you have to separate first. So you have learned kan separation kan, they got many methods of separation. So kalau separation definitely will need additional equipment, additional cost. And kalau separation kamu tak efficient, ada lagi produk yang bercampur. Okay, produk tu duit. Saya nak produk, saya nak produk, saya nak kurang raw material. Okay, so that's one way. Second way, rather than I separate and I recycle, I connect the first reactor to the second reactor. Means flow yang keluar daripada reaktor pertama, saya flow terus masuk pada reaktor yang kedua. Why? Supaya kita beri dia lebih banyak masa for the reaction to take place. Contohnya, kata lain, if first reactor hanya convert 50 mol, okay, harapan tambah reaktor kedua, yang lagi baki 50 mol tu akan bertukar menjadi produk. So you give them more chance by connecting to more reactors. So this configuration, we call it reactor in series. Okay, so dalam industri banyak kali digunakan ni. Kamu akan tengok, kenapa reaktor ni macam bersambung-sambung? Actually, reaktor ni in series and it's very rarely available in educational or in universities for teaching. Tapi our lab ada benda ni. So our lab has 3 CSTR in series. Kamu nampak 3 ni sebenarnya adalah 3 reaktor yang bersambung. Nanti kamu akan belajar bagaimana reaction takes place bila kita ada 3 reaktor yang bersambung. That one for CSTR. Kita ada lagi 2 PFR yang bersambung and 1 single CSTR. So kamu akan compare reaction yang sama. Apa berlaku kalau saya guna 1 reaktor, saya guna 3 reaktor yang bersambung ataupun 2 reaktor yang bersambung daripada jenis yang berlainan. Okay, so that's experimental 4. Okay, that's part that I find it very good for the education and I hope that you can actually get to experience this in the lab. Okay, so the last part, not for today, for this intro is on the reference book. Okay, so for the reference book, for reaction engineering, okay, not only in Malaysia, in the world as well. If you're talking about reaction engineering, kamu kena faham reaction engineering. I can assure you, kamu check syllabus of any university in the world. If they teach chemical engineering, dia akan ada reaction engineering. For sure, kalau course chemical engineering tak ada reaction kan, course tu confirm bukan chemical engineering. Chemical engineering core dia mesti reaction. And for reaction engineering, kalau kamu check dia punya reference book, I can almost assure you 90% menggunakan buku ni. We call it Fogler. The book name is very common. We call it Fogler or the Fogler tu author dia. Okay, the name of the book is Elements of Chemical Reaction Engineering. Okay, so this is the #1 book, reference book for reaction engineering. And in fact, I also use this book heavily. Okay, so unfortunately, fortunately, I think we have the e-book in our library. If I'm not mistaken, our library, UniKM MySet Library has this book physically. E-book pun ada. Kamu please make sure check. Kita ada e-book sebenarnya. Kita ada banyak subscription kepada e-book, reference book. And this is one of the book that is available in the e-book version in our library. So make sure you do have a copy if you can. Sebab bukan saja kamu akan guna untuk reaction. Later for those process student, when you go to design project 1, you will see me again. I pun ajar design project 1. Design project 1 pun kamu akan guna balik buku ni. So if you have the e-book, it's so much better. Okay, so this is all for the briefing. Okay, unfortunately, we have about 40 minutes. Okay, sahabat, I plan to finish the class at 6:30. I won't go to 7:30 lah. 7:30 kesian kamu. I plan to go to 6:30. So, I will give you about 5-minute break. Saya pun perlukan break. I will come back in 5 minutes and I will go to chapter 1. Tapi I will go very surface lah. Saya takkan pergi dalam sangat. Saya pergi surface supaya ganti sebab lepas ni dah tak ada kelas untuk minggu ni. Okay, so please take a 5-minute breaks. We will come back in 5 minutes time. Okay.